Hello everyone, my name is Takuto Mawesiri and I'll be talking about oxygen binding and release in hemoglobin. So firstly, I'm going to discuss the structure of hemoglobin. So hemoglobin is a protein which is comprised of 4 subunits, alpha 1, alpha 2, beta 1, and beta 2. And these subunits are typically each carrying a heme group. It's composed of an ion atom, like you see here, which is linked to a porphyrin ring. When oxygen is available, it binds to the ion atom within the heme group, producing an oxygenated heme complex. So this complex is precisely structured to enable reversible oxygen binding, which is critical for both oxygen uptake in the lungs and its delivery into the tissues. So, as oxygen binds to the heme group, it undergoes some structural or conformational changes. So, the one I'm going to be talking about is called cooperative binding. So as the oxygen binds to the heme group, hemoglobin undergoes a conformational change. This conformational change transitions hemoglobin from the low affinity tense state, which is also called the T state, to the high affinity R state, which is the relaxed state, which makes it easier for additional oxygen molecules to bind. So now I'm going to be talking about the binding capacity in the lungs versus the binding capacity in the capillaries. So as you can see, the lungs have a high partial pressure of oxygen, which is at 100, and the tissues have a partial pressure of 40, which is obviously lower than that of the lungs, which is at 100. So the high partial pressure of the lungs aids in the binding of oxygen to hemoglobin. The increased oxygen concentration stimulates hemoglobin saturation with oxygen, and as a result of that, oxygenated hemoglobin is created, which allows for the effective oxygen delivery between the lungs to the rest of the body. The partial pressure of oxygen in the capillaries is at 40, which is obviously lower than that of the lungs, which is at 100. This causes hemoglobin to release oxygen, which then diffuses into the surrounding tissues. At reduced oxygen concentrations, hemoglobin's affinity for oxygen decreases, which causes oxygen to be released. Now I'm going to be talking about carbon dioxide and water and how it affects pH of capillaries. So carbon dioxide is produced by body cells and it circulates into the capillaries as well as reacts with water to make carbonic acid. This carbonic acid then breaks down into bicarbonate ions as well as H plus ions or hydrogen ions, according to the equation that is listed below. So the release of these hydrogen ions causes a decline in pH, which leaves the blood vessels in the environment moderately acidic. The drop in pH allows the release of oxygen from hemoglobin, hence increasing oxygen supply to the tissues. So at high altitudes or during intense exercise, the increased production of carbon dioxide and lactic acid further lowers the pH of the blood, which reinforces the unloading of oxygen in critical areas or the release of oxygen in critical areas. In contrast to this, fetal hemoglobin has a higher oxygen affinity than adult hemoglobin, which allows the fetus to effectively extract oxygen from the mother's bloodstream. The body's ability to regulate oxygen transport through structural changes in hemoglobin and chemical interactions in the blood highlights the effectiveness and efficiency of this system. The graph basically shows oxygen partial pressure and hemoglobin oxygen saturation at pH 7.8, which is alkaline, pH 7.4, which is normal, and pH 7.0, which is acidic. We've reached the end of my presentation. Thank you.